everybody. Welcome back to Tax Sale Insiders. I am Rachel Seidensticker and here with our CEO, Brian Seidensticker. And we're back with another segment on, how to help you invest in different places across the country and what is entailed to invest in tax liens and tax deeds. Hey, Brian.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, always good to sit down and chat and give everybody some, I guess more detailed information on what it takes to invest in certain areas. So, today we're going to take a spin into the tax deed world and address Arkansas. I think
Ooh.
Arkansas has been a state that has been growing in, I guess, somewhat popularity. I know I'm seeing it a lot more, so that tells me something's happening there. But let's pick your brain on what you know about Arkansas. Can you give us just like a general introduction to what it means to invest in Arkansas tax deed sales?
Yeah, I guess high level, it's unique, and the sales are really run by the state, but they still have them at the county level. I could certainly guess as to why it's becoming more popular because it's still one of those states where nearly all, if not all, of the sales are still live versus online. And so, theoretically and actually data-wise, we can show you that you get better deals at live auctions. And so, folks that are pretty serious about doing this at any sort of scale and are looking where to get a decent deal still, then Arkansas might be near the top of the list. And as that type of word spreads, then the areas that have live auctions still, they're getting more and more folks attend those sales.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting perspective. So I guess can you see kind of address some of the pros of what it would mean to invest in the Arkansas sales, but any cons that you know of that investors need to be worried about?
Yeah, I guess if I put it this way, it's a deed state, and so if you're a lien investor, it's certainly not the place to go, right? Pros and cons are always odd because one man's con might be another man's pro, but high level, it is a short, call it a redemption period. It's typically 30 days. They do have a interesting provision in there. I've never done any case study. I should probably go a little further. And we are not attorneys, right? So definitely take what I'm telling you and run it by a local attorney in Arkansas and ensure statutes haven't changed. The process is the same because it can be different county by county, but in general, typically you go to the auction, right? It's a standard bid up auction, right? People with paddles at a live auction, and highest bidder wins. Now there's still a 30-day period where the previous owner can, I say, redeem that property, right, and reverse the sale. There's a provision in there for, disabled minors and active military personnel. So if the previous owner happens to be in one of those categories, that redemption period can go up to 2 years in the future. So something to kind of keep in mind as you're doing research is knowing who the prior owner is, and if you think it might fall in one of those categories, just be prepared for the longer potential redemption period.
For sure.
After that ends, which is typically 30 days, you do still have to go through a title certification or quiet title process in order to get insurable title. So it's standard from that regard.
Okay. And do you know how we go about getting the lists in Arkansas?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's again done by each county, so you can go download each individual list. We compile all. I can't even think how many counties are in Arkansas off the top of my head, but there's a lot of them.
75.
Yeah, so 75 different counties, right? We actually gather those lists, we process it into our platform, and so you could go just download the list, or you can go search all of those auctions at once, and narrow it down through our research platform as well.
Yeah, okay. Good. Yeah, and there's like you said, the state manages it, right? So there are some state resources you can go out and usually find a list that way as well. But getting the data, they don't necessarily have much information on their list like most areas. So still beneficial to go to the research platform and take a look at what else is there and what the parcels are all about. So how about, do you have any kind of insight on if there's a particular investment model? And I know again, caveat, we don't give legal advice or even investment advice, but do you have any like knowledge that you've gleaned after talking to some investors on just special insights to keep in mind that might help an investor be more successful?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I hit on is the fact that they're all live auctions, right? So, if you're looking to invest remotely, there may not be an area you want to go. If you're looking to get a deal, right, it may be a good area to go. I think as with a lot of states, right, there's a lot of vacant land, going up for auction. I think Arkansas is also an area where there's some areas that are pretty decent markets, and there's a lot of counties where if you end up owning real estate, you might be holding it for a long time, and even if you want to sell it. So those are things to kind of keep in mind. Just do your local market research. There's lots of tools out there to do that. Figuring out how long average hold time, etc. But that said, right, I think one of the largest auctions is Jefferson County, I believe, and they have like almost 600 different parcels going up for auction this year, and so there's typically plenty of properties to be had. And I guess that's another thing to kind of keep in mind is because they have their sales once a year, all of those accumulate, and you have a decent amount of quantity to review, which again can be good or bad depending on. It's a lot more research to do if you're doing it one at a time. It can also be a place where there's more opportunity, right? So if you're attending the auction and it's live and somebody's bidding a lot, they may run out of cash toward the end, right? There's lots of different strategies you could implement at live auctions that you don't necessarily have the advantage of doing it at online auctions these days.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And actually you had mentioned Jefferson County, and I thought we'd give a little look at our market analysis for Arkansas here, actually. And the largest auctions last year were Pulaski County and Izard County. So as far as Pulaski having 539 sold and Izard having 498 sold. So, we've got some great snapshots. And you mentioned vacant land. Benton County, for example, had of their 302 parcels sold, 260 of those were vacant land parcels. So, our market analysis can give you a lot of good information, and I think will prove to our investors really that live sales are certainly the a more positive way of having a better chance at getting parcels, basically.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's in this industry, I tell folks over and over, you need to have your own secret sauce. You need to have your own model you're pursuing. And typically that comes down to what type of properties you're searching for. And not every auction will have every property type, right? This kind of shows you, right, there's residential, commercial, and how many properties are in each of those categories. And just because there's a lot of properties going up to auction doesn't mean there's going to be many in your category. And this report, can help you look at all 75 counties and determine which counties have properties you're actually searching for, pretty quickly. So, yeah, it can be an incredibly powerful tool if used in that way.
Indeed. Just looking at a lot of these counties, it's heavy on the vacant land. So, definitely worth, I think, a look at our market analysis. That's for sure, to maybe give people a little insight. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think we addressed, competition because our live sales, it's not quite as crazy as some of those online sales. What do you think? I guess let's talk about our financing product and being able to grow your investments in Arkansas. What would that look like for investors if they're trying to break through into that market?
Well, one of the our financing product or products is really more built for tax deeds, right? Ideally, tax deeds that don't have insurable title yet. So, Arkansas is a perfect market for that product, right? So if you are limited in capital in any way and you believe you could buy a lot more at these auctions, if you had access to capital, then certainly reach out to us and maybe a way for us to work with you in providing capital to help you scale in those. The upside downside, right, is each county has its own individual auction. It's only once a year, right? At least they're not all on the same day, so you can spread it out to some extent and be able to go to multiple sales throughout the course of the year to to maximize not only your capital but then our financing program as well.
Nice. Awesome. Well, any other takeaways that you want to share with our listeners and viewers before we end this segment on Arkansas tax deed sales?
Yeah, I think for anybody that's looking to get a deal in general, Arkansas is one of those few markets where there's a lot of live auctions to still find those great deals. We'll see how long that lasts. It's one of the, I'll say, last holdout states where they're not all online or headed in that direction. And so if you truly are looking to get into this business, are willing to travel, and they're still looking for decent deals, then Arkansas would be up there on the list for sure to look into it at a minimum.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. Again, another great piece of advice and thoughts on where investors can be looking in this industry for new different places to explore and maybe invest. And we always like having you here on Tax Sale Insider. So thanks for joining us.
Absolutely no problem. Good luck, everybody.
Yep. Happy investing out there. Take care.